Welcome back to our regular viewers, and thank you for joining us for our fourth episode of our third season. If you are new to our podcast, a new peer ally, or new to the workforce, we're glad we found you. This podcast is for behavioral health clients and consumers, advocates, allies, peer support workers, community health workers, and community stakeholders, where we talk about advocacy, recovery, peer support, and provide education related to legislative changes to statewide policy to empower you as a client, consumer, or ally to lift up your voice as a stakeholder in the public behavioral health system. I'm Nicole, and with me today are my team members.
I'm Jocelyn.
And I'm also Nicole.
And we also have the pleasure of visiting with co-founder of Peer Voices of Orange County, Orlando.
Hi, how are you?
And director of peer support, Kimberly Adams.
Good afternoon.
All right, so before we dive into the content, just to get to know you guys a little bit better, what is one small thing in your daily life that consistently brings you joy or makes you happy?
I have a Harman Kardon stereo in my car, and it's surround sound, and that always brings me joy.
That sounds amazing. Love that.
Wonderful. Well, I know mine's a little bit odd, but I think going out to the backyard and picking my dog's poop really brings me joy. I know it sounds crazy, but it took me a while to realize that, because when I go out there, I'm barefoot in the grass and I'm picking up and I'm just kind of grounded. I get to see all the beautiful trees and things. So I try to get that as my first grounding in the morning. And that really helps me to kind of, be grateful. So it's kind of a weird thing. It just spirals into a good day. And I have to do it anyway.
I love that perspective on it. I don't think I ever had that perspective when I had a dog. So I love that, Orlando.
He enjoys it. He likes it though. He definitely loves me taking care of him. But you know how animals are. They bring so much joy to us.
All right, thank you both for that. Lots of great joy there. As we shared in your introduction, Orlando, you're the co-founder, and Kimberly, you're the director of peer support. Can you share a bit about your organization, Peer Voices of Orange County, your team, what types of advocacy work you focused on, and one area you feel you've been the most impactful?
Wonderful. I mean, I'll start, Kimberly, if that's okay. I call myself a co-founder out of respect for the fact that there was another person that initially started this. So I do that. That person no longer is part of the organization and didn't want to be part of it. They moved on to something else. But I think out of respect for that, which I am respectful, I felt like just keep that as co-founder. Technically, after that, I became the founder in that sense because I was the only one that was there leading it. But we came out of the whole peer movement with Sally Zimmerman, the whole human rights movement, as I call it, because we are a human rights organization. And I think that organization and behavioral health and really having that lived experience is what really changed me. I actually did not have at that time the whole foundation of the organization. It was more we were being helped by Be Well and some other organizations that saw what we were doing, and then they funded us to be able to see what we wanted to do privately, because I started it on a private level, and then we went beyond that and created Peer Voices, which of course peers voices, it's hard to explain to people what a peer is, but we know what it is, and especially if you're in the industry. But our movement and what we do is basically a human rights movement. We're here with our lived experience, deeply with our lived experience, to help others. And we have just been on this journey for now, how many years since the whole, SB 803 and certifying and everything that happened. We've been on this long journey trying to really explore and figure out ways how to elevate those that have lived experience and peers, as especially, which I am in love with in that sense, are those individuals that may have experienced some traumatic issues, especially in the behavioral health area, and they need that support, but also they contribute so much to the society, and that journey between what they are and the challenges and what they provide is such an incredible journey. And again, trying to find sustainable funding and programs to be able to do that. So that's been our journey, and our main focus is empowerment. Really empowering the individual. We're here not as an organization, as a pyramid organization where I'm on top. We're all equal. We all have to contribute. We're all part of this. A peer has to work on themselves, and that's one of the things that we definitely have added to our organization from the beginning. That part of our day, which we're not supposed to say it for reasons of labor laws and all kinds of stuff, as you know. How do you tell an individual coming to work for you that, hey, take 20% of your time to work on yourself? It's like, how do you tell a funder that, which we do. We try to explain that, but it's almost like an unsaid things that we all kind of keep under wraps, because in a sense what we're doing is we want that person to become better and better and better and help themselves so that they can give back at such a high level. So that's a really tough challenge when you're a peer organization, because as we all know, we all have things, we all have working on all our little T's and big T's, and we're trying to get through that. So I hope that answered that. I don't know if I'm sure I missed a few other things that you had asked, so I apologize. But that's kind of like my version. Kimberly definitely has more to add to that. Hopefully I helped you, Kimberly. Go for it, Kimberly.
All right, you're the big picture visionary. So meat and potatoes. Pure Voices United is small but mighty. We have an excellent reputation in the community. We provide so many services. We have a lot of volunteers and interns who are such an asset. We are field-based primarily. We work with justice involved, hoarding behaviors clients. Um, and it's impactful because we are encountering and helping BHSA priority populations. So we've got at risk of homelessness, at risk of conservatorship, justice involvement, all of those. And we do a really good job of tailoring our services. We do provide a spotlight on collaboration networking forum where we bring case managers, agency leaders, all together to network once a month. And we do our peer mentorship training, which I am the facilitator. So that's a little bit about Peer Voices United, Peer Voices of Orange County.
Yes, that's why I love when she's with me. I told her because of what she does is she puts it in the micro of our boots in the ground field-based work. And I'm a big picture person. That's why I keep, and I try to keep those dreams going and all the innovations, and I try to keep those as much under wraps until they actually come out, because if not, I'll drive them crazy, as you can imagine. So what I do, so our team is exactly Kimberly like that. She's very focused and actually spot on, Kimberly, with all the things that you had mentioned on that. Definitely our field-based work has always been. We've always, through COVID, when we're on the field, that's when it all kind of really came together. So definitely description of us, I love it.
Yeah, you're a great team, great balance here with that big picture and bringing it into the services. And so we want to dive into that a little bit more. One of your specialties is hoarding support and advocacy. Can you tell us more about hoarding and what services you provide?
Absolutely. I'll take this one. The hoarding disorder, we assist clients with hoarding behaviors. Hoarding disorder is a distinct diagnosis in the DSM-5, which is the psychiatry Bible. Um, um, so the population is about 5%. That's a low estimate. So we're talking about millions of people who are impacted by hoarding behaviors. It does not discriminate, all walks of life, everybody. Um, and so it's characterized by acquiring, saving, emotional attachment, and non-functional areas. Meaning if I can't use my living room as a living room because I have so much stuff, that's part of the criteria. Um, there's also, I have encountered this a lot as a responsibility piece, which is there's an emotional attachment, but there's also a responsibility piece where they feel like if I'm going to get rid of something, it needs to go to the right person or the right place. So it's not just emotional attachment, we've got that piece too. Um,
Yep.
so recovery is possible despite the exploitative TV shows, which is using someone's mental illness as entertainment and triggering and poking them on purpose so I can get a reaction out of it for entertainment purposes. Um, Very frustrating. And it's not it doesn't lead toward recovery and compassion and understanding. So recovery is possible. There's a lot of shame and isolation. Peer trust. Peers are the ones that can create that trust because people have, up to that point, have been dealing with shame and isolation and unhelpful approaches. A peer can come in, build that trust, and help them toward recovery. Did you ask me about services or just a little bit about hoarding disorder?
Your support and advocacy. So we'll get into the services piece as well.
The advocacy, of course, of course, she loves it, and that's we do love Cal Voices, always have. Uh, See that as our basically our anchor for a statewide advocacy. Every person that comes in, and again, we're expanding that, and she can definitely as well speak on this even more than I because she is that representative going to Sacramento, getting the training, going and doing the work necessary for the work for Cal Voices for the statewide advocacy that we do, since we are connected with many other organizations. But we're also on a micro level, we do put that into everyone who comes to work with us. We help them to be as an organizational advocacy, not just as an individual advocacy. There has to be that responsibility, and that's what we do. Each person that comes in, we teach them about it, and I know that that's something that Kimberly's expanding more and more, even on her mentorship program and on some of the other trainings that we do to include each and every person to understand it. And that so if you want to add a little bit more to that, Kimberly, that's great. I did want to say that on the hoarding part, just to go back a minute, hoarding does lead to homelessness. So that is also, it does attach to that. I know you've always mentioned that. I just want to remind you of that.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing. It's definitely a misunderstood area for sure. So appreciate you just shedding more light on that. Focusing more on that advocacy work. Advocacy can just feel very nebulous sometimes when we talk about it. What are some of the specific things right now that you are advocating for?
Um, so first of all, I just wanted to point out the fact that I began my journey as an advocate. I came out of being identified with hoarding challenges. And I was sore and bruised and broken and depressed and hopeless. And I was recruited by the local county hoarding task force. And I'm rooted in advocacy. It's how I climbed my way out. So I reclaimed my power. I'm currently chair of the Orange County Task Force on Hoarding. We are advocating for funding, direct services, awareness, education, and outreach. I do presentations for education, consulting, um, advocating for against exploitative pricing for clean out companies and organizing companies. We need a non-traumatic approach. So, more advocating with, in particular, the task force is the people who attend our child protective services, adult protective services, disability rights and conservatorship attorneys, clinicians, other agencies. And so we're advocating for them to become aware and bring these non-traumatizing therapeutic approaches, compassionate and educated. Yeah.
I love that. And I wanted to add a little bit on the advocacy part. I've always had a struggle with advocacy because I've always say that most of my best friends are advocates, but they're broke. And I don't want to, basically, and with that, that's kind of like the journey that some of the most incredibly wonderful people are advocates. They care about people, they really advocate. I bring it down to a more of a realistic level, and that's why I always say organizational. The advocacy that I always think of and the way we process things at Pure Voices is each and every person we come into contact with, everything that Kimberly says, she got out and she was able to thrive through her advocacy. So I look at advocacy as empowerment, being able to speak up. We have a meeting that we do, a workshop on Mondays for reentry. We have 30 people coming in there some of them are lifers, people from all walks of life, people that have served 20 years in jail. They're trying to get back into society. We have a housing program that we provide to them. And interestingly enough, we try to empower them, and that means through advocacy. So we're actually adding the advocacy component to see what part it brings to them and making them realize that they came out, but I know that they may not realize that they need to help in order to claw their way out of it, because it brings a higher level of consciousness to caring about others and then realizing what you've done and the things of how you've hurt others. So advocacy for me is a really therapeutic. But interestingly enough, though, just advocacy alone is really interesting because it does not necessarily explain to someone how to do it, and also the focus and what really works and what doesn't work. So there's still a lot out there that is unknown in advocacy, and it's just not what a lot of them think of as complaining. That is not advocacy. So a lot of that is teaching them and explaining that. So we're going through a journey right now, but we embed advocacy in everything we do. I know that Kimberly does as well in everything she does. Every person becomes an advocate, and that means that they're able to know how to find resources, but helping themselves and empowering themselves at the same time is part of the advocacy work. So I don't know if that makes sense and helps, but I definitely feel that needs to be on an organizational level. That's one thing I've always repeat.
Yeah, thank you for that, Orlando. And I like how both of you talked a little bit about advocacy being therapeutic and helping you out of challenges and whatnot. So I want to transition just slightly here into that sort of area, because you both are in peer leadership roles and you have a wealth of experience. I just kind of want to know if you could tell yourself one thing at the beginning of your journey, what would you tell yourself? And along the same thought, what is one thing you might tell someone else starting out in the peer or advocacy workforce?
So my work is rooted in passion and empowerment. And I would look back with that in mind and say, your lived experience is invaluable. Your pain has a purpose. Um, and I always bloom where I'm planted. So that is going to happen. Yeah.
I love that. I love that, and I definitely can definitely ditto that and say that I agree with that. I think for myself, just on a kind of, I'm not sure answering the question, but for me personally, when I do have those that I come in contact with that want to be in this, or I look back at myself, what I could have, what could have helped me a little bit more, just a tiny bit more. I think in the peer work, your lived experience definitely is who you are, and that's something you have to embrace. But at the same time, I think focusing on yourself and empowering yourself makes you such a better advocate, makes you such a better your lived experience now is valued because you are actually looking at that lived experience not as something that was traumatic, not something that you can also share as a resume. It's not your resume, you have someone who comes out of jail and they say, "Oh, I've been in jail for 30 years," and they keep saying that. But now what when you grow into it? So I think for me it's that kind of a weird, and I'm not sure if I have the words to describe it, but really being able to embrace that you have to focus on you. As you focus on you, you're actually helping everyone around you. So I think that's what I would have always like point people in that direction.
Can I add one more thing? For me, what I did was I turned my perceived liabilities into an asset, my
Mm.
lived experience.
That is a peer. And sometimes I wonder if we shouldn't describe peers. I always have a hard time, especially with funders, and you say I'm a peer organization, and like, well, we're all peers, right? And I think sometimes I always, especially right now with the battle between community health workers and peers, which we actually right now have a coalition, and we're connected to most of the universities. We're working on a statewide work. We actually work all of the volunteers that come out of some of these schools and provide mentorship program and experience for community health workers. And we actually revamped most of our website to include community health workers because I felt that there was two separate names, but they're the same person in a sense, and I hate that battle that has come around and almost feel like we as peers have lost a little bit because we have not continue to grow in the educational level of getting continual education and growth and expansion. And I think community health workers have won that battle and have actually, because of the name, it's much simpler to understand a community health worker and even give them more value than, I'm sorry to say, than even what a peer has, because a peer has both. A peer has both. A peer has a community health worker experience. We did it through COVID, my God, but we were called, something else. And then all of a sudden, peers are kind of in that battle. So I think they're one. I think a lot of it is that, that whole battle that's going on. So I do struggle with that. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of our discussion is overcoming barriers and frustrations within in the workforce that individuals are facing. Using your creative side, your dreamer side of yourself. What is one thing that can be done to surpass those frustrations?
Well, I think is you have to accept things as they are at times, and but for me, what I do is when I work with peers and especially in the workforce, sometimes it's really hard to translate how much you love someone and want to help them. But sometimes that is not enough. They need the discipline, they need a lot of other things. But I think from a peer, they have to realize that their lived experience may come with a lot of challenges. The challenges that they have that they may not work 9 to 5. 9 to 5 may be a small segment of the community. They may not be able to work in an office. They may have to work virtually. So like, I think I love what Kimberly said, which is basically saying, my lived experience and all the challenges, turning it into an asset. I think that's where the creative side kind of comes in and explodes into, okay, I'm a peer. I struggle with mental health issues, but there's no way in hell, or excuse me, no way in heck I'm going to be able to um, work 9 to 5. So I'm going to have to find a job or work with and be able to advocate. That's where the advocacy comes in. They still have value. They have that lived experience. They're wonderful, but maybe they just need to work a different route, work, 12 to 8, they like the 12-9 noon. So now you become part of some of the calls and, warm lines and other things. So I think that you cannot let all of those challenges. So that's kind of my thinking. So it's really about them working with us. So as a peer, when they come in, everyone's kind of their mind is, oh, 9 to 5. And I'm like, no, you work when you need to work and how you have to work as long as you get your work done. So we're very unique and we do have that we've been able so far to continue to do that. And that allows a lot more individuals that are amazing with their lived experience to work with us and be part of us. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Kimberly, but I think you can expand on that.
Yeah, can I add one thing about what I would tell myself in the past, what I would say to somebody else?
Sure.
That would be pick your passion, bite down, and shake it like a dog toy.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
And then as far as the frustrating and a solution, what I would like to see is peers as consultants to clinicians, physicians, as peer counselors first and foremost. There would be a peer counselor role. We would also be consultants. Um, and I just want to give a short story. I had a client who was in psychosis, and we were in the middle of a psychiatrist's office. I was there as the peer. The client went into psychosis. The psychiatrist kicked us out, and we walked outside, and I was able to get that client grounded. So in that situation, the peer was the one who was able to get it done. And I think that's a really good example. So I would definitely like to see us as consultants and peer counselors. I think it would be very effective.
I do want to add to that. We've been working on that for years. We want to have that database of peers throughout the state that basically can be call themselves a peer counselor. And interestingly, SAMHSA does allow peers to call themselves peer counselor. That's one of the names that they can use. I had to investigate that because we were part of peer PCCA, which is Peers and Clinicians Collaborative Alliance. We partnered up with Naru's Clinic and we created an organization and we did really well. We created programs and we were really hoping that it would take off. It did not, but the amount of material that we put together. We were training peers and clinicians, and what we were doing is bringing them together because clinicians need peers more than they realize. We're the glue. We're the one that connects them to be able to know what really is going on. A a client may not be as open to a clinician as they are to a peer. That connection, that emotional connection, that all of that is just so powerful. So we created this, but one of the battles that we were having when you mentioned peer counseling is a lot of the counselors were very upset at that. A lot of the LSWs and a lot of the clinicians were looking at us. Well, you guys don't have a degree. Why you want to be? How can you call yourself? That's not right. You know what? You're going to get sued. They were actually challenging us, and I battled with some, with a lot of PhDs on this, and I won the battle. Of course, I did, and I explained that, and we were able to show that we could. We are peer counselors. So I love that, Kimberly. We are working on that, and that is part of our way back big programs where we are and with the big data to be able to have any peer tap in at any time of the day when they want to work and possibly that would be the contribution they give. What if it's only 4 hours a week, 20 hours a week, 5 hours here, 15 hours here, but it also will elevate us to a level and provide even more services to the whole state of California. I know that's my solution. I'm sure that's Cal Voices and what we would love, and many others like us.
Yeah. It's so evident talking to both of you just how much you love this work and are so passionate about what you do and being in peer leadership. Would you guys like to share what do you like most about being in a peer leadership role? And what would you consider your biggest success so far?
Seeing students light up, peer mentorship students, seeing them light up when they're learning And we do a lot of role play in that training. So they go through real life scenarios and you see them, that's during the time where they're turning their liabilities into an asset. They're seeing hands-on the actual moment that they connect with another person, with a peer, a client. And so seeing them light up and get that recognition and confidence that they build. Um, I love seeing advocates in action, and I love connecting case managers and agencies so that they can better serve their clients through our Spotlight networking forum.
That's wonderful. Um, I was thinking about as you were saying that we've been trying to figure out because remember I mentioned about the peer name peer. How do we connect another name so we can say as a slogan what a peer is? So we play around with that. Uh, the reason I enjoy this is because I think being a peer makes me feel closer to being a human because I kind of look at peers as just a human who has flaws, has wonderful characteristics, have challenge, behavioral health, and all. So to me, a peer is all it is just a human, and I think I see it that way. And then for me also, the successes that I feel I have achieved more for me personally is that doing this work reminds me again that the value of being connected, the value of being a human, the value that we give to others, and especially when I have a client right now that calls me. This is people that I did support groups 10 years ago. It doesn't end. It does not end. It's a connection forever. And it really makes you feel grounded and that's what I think I love. It's such a reminder of the humbleness that we all have to really have in order to do the work that we do. So it helps a lot. It's just a constant reminder and it's wonderful. So I don't have to whenever I forget, I just do it and then it just reminds me and then I go back to understanding why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, thank you for that, Orlando. I think you make a great point about peers being, they remind you of just being human and having that connection. Um, and I want to circle back to something Kimberly was talking about a little bit earlier about recovery is possible with someone who may have hoarding behaviors. Um, I would love to hear if you have, a hoarding success story, because I think you're right. I think there are exploitive folks out there, and I think it would be good to leave people in what you call that recovery is possible, right? And so if there's some story you could share with us, Kimberly or Orlando,
Oh,
so
she
we
has lots of them. She has
can,
she has she has a
does
lot. So I don't know how many hours we have left, but Kimberly, go for it.
Yeah, I think that would be great, Kimberly, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I'll call her Jane. She reached out to me through my support group. We do provide a support group beyond our belongings, which is for people with hoarding behaviors who want to be in recovery. And so she reached out to me through that support group. And I went to her house and did one-on-one training in therapeutic sorting, which is something that I have developed based on treatments that I received and treatments that I know work. Um, so I helped her and trained her in therapeutic sorting. She was able to, over a period of a little bit over 1 year, it took her 1 year, over 1 year, to sort her entire home. But she was able to do it. And she sold her home and moved to Nevada. She wanted to retire outside of California. And she was able to successfully do that. We have before and after pictures, the after pictures being the staged home when she was ready for sale. Beautiful before and after. During that time, she and I did a piece with CBS News, and it is still going to be released. I know it's been a while, but it is going to be released. But we did a piece for CBS News about her journey, and I will share that when it comes out. But so her entire house, and since she's moved to Nevada, she's done a beautiful job of maintaining. She's doing the Beyond Our Belongings support group as well as a Buried in Treasures workshop that I facilitate as well. Excellent success story.
That's exciting.
Congratulations. That's a year's worth of dedication and really compassion and that coaching to allow that individual to now continue and maintain in their new lifestyle. And I know we're all looking forward to seeing that piece when it's
We're
available.
excited. We're excited. We had a grant that we proposed and we wanted to have it. We didn't have it ready for that. That was actually from the same company. It was I think it was at NBC or CBS or what was it? It was
CBS.
CBS. It was a CBS grant that we were applying for actually, and we wanted to put that in there and highlight Kimberly. We highlight all of our success, all our people. It's not about Pure Voices. It's really the people that make Pure Voices what it is. So for us, I mean, the higher that we can raise someone, the better it is for all of us. And that's something that we definitely appreciate. One thing that came to my mind when she said that story and really irks me is how fast we go. And that's unfortunately with my own attention deficit, it's taken me years for my brain to slow down and to process. And trust me, it's very challenging, as you know, when you have a certain kind of brain. And it's great to some level, but very challenging. But I am now at the point in my life where I'm older, unfortunately, but fortunately for my brain, it is an older, more experienced brain. Maybe it has more lived experience. And now it realizes time in a different way. So I think part of the whole journey of time is so important because how many funders, how many organizations, how many people are going to do what just Kimberly did for 1 year, that dedication for 1 year? Not many. So we've always gone above and beyond. I think we have the love for it. We would love to get paid more for sure. Why not? We deserve it. I want for all peers, and that we do advocate for that. But 1 year, and we want a quick solution, and there isn't any. This is a long, drawn out life situation that we all have to understand. And I think she just with that story just kind of like gave me goosebumps, especially about the time. And I'm like, oh my God, we have no patience. I have programs from the state that I'm working on, and they're like, okay, you got somebody who's been in jail 30 years, and now in 6 months, can you get them back? I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So that is the pain. And I really truly, as a peer organization, love sustainability, but sustainability has to be realistic and it has to come from, you have to see all the good and bad. And we are very straight up with our reentry individuals and say, look, we're just one piece, but we're going to try to put all the puzzles and pieces together so you can find your way home, which is the name of the program in a way, right? Well, isn't that one of the programs we have, coming home? And I think so. It's just amazing, But we, as you can see, we love the work we do.
Definitely. You can feel it through the screen, and I'm sure like you said earlier, Orlando, we could probably sit here and listen to success stories for hours and have goosebumps throughout the whole thing. And we look forward to hearing more. And also, congratulations to the individual as well through the process.
Yeah.
Now, looking ahead at this point, do you have any program updates that you can share with us?
Well, I think Kimberly definitely is working, and this is something that, everything's about timing and everything. I do feel that she's at that point, and I do want to launch her and make her, the queen of hoarding. I don't know if that sounds right, but anyway, I don't know. We'll see what name it comes up with. But like same with every one of our individuals that work with us, make them the subject matter expert, which she is. So that program definitely, I know she can talk about that. That is going to launch. I know we've been working on it for a year, getting things together. As far as other programs, I do love our statewide program, which will include advocacy, and we definitely actually are going to be inviting you guys to some of that. I've already told our team we have Tuesday meetings on that, and it's a collaborative, and it's going to be more of an educational for community health workers. We're pulling in peers because we want them to become community health workers as well. We want them together on that, and we are working with all the universities to be able to actually put other programs, collaborate, and put 6 certifications into one through the schooling, really elevate the peer in that level. And that's going to elevate the peer and the community health worker. And that is going to be coming out very soon. So those are the ones I'm really excited about. Some of the innovation as well as the workforce, statewide workforce, as you mentioned, for peers. That is something, peer counseling is something that I've been working on. We've tried many things. When we first started the budget, we needed about $1 million. Right now, it looks like we would need about 100,000 because of technology and everything that's changed. So over the course of a few years, I'm hoping that it goes down a little bit more, or we're able to go and come to that level. The other thing that I haven't even told Kimberly and our team about that I'm working on is our Peer Voices TV, and that's going to be something where we are actually going to be doing live, helping people live on the channel, and bringing in organizations to take care of people immediately, because as you know, people get the runaround. And I love my nonprofit community, but I always tell Kimberly jokingly that they're kind of hoarders. And the reason I say that is because they hoard resources and they don't share. That's not the way it is with Peer Voices. If we have a sister organization that works with us, if we can include them in our funding and help them, give them money, we do that. We've done that many times with many other partners. We has to be a collaborative community and partnership, but a lot of organizations hoard their resources, and that kind of makes me very upset because and I know why. And again, I always go to the expert Kimberly to say, well, why do they do that? And it's kind of like the community, the competition, the fear of maybe letting go of that 100,000 that you could share with someone and then not getting it back. So those are the things that we're working on. So Kimberly, I don't know if you want to add to it on in any level of the hoarding, especially.
Sure. Looking ahead, looking forward to obviously more funding for hoarding disorder, as well as our other services. But hoarding behaviors direct services, I think, is number one. But even the Orange County Task Force on Hoarding does not do direct services. So, um, um, and I'm also looking forward to building very strong advocates in our peer mentorship training students
Mhm.
and our clients. And one thing I want to add about advocacy is there's one responsibility beyond advocating: recruiting others. Every advocate should be recruiting somebody else.
I agree.
Advocacy is definitely work that builds on itself and can grow exponentially.
Oh, absolutely. And we do create it organically in our organization because I think they see first of all, it starts with passion. Whenever somebody calls, I don't know where the passion comes from. I don't know where the energy comes from. Maybe it's a genetic disorder. I don't really know. But at the same time, when somebody calls, it could be the 130. We get a lot of calls. When we get a 130th call and they get me, they got me. I'm going to try to give them in those 5 minutes as much information where that person is going to say, wow, you're honest, because we are very realistic based. We're straight up. We tell them all the challenges. You can't expect people to go through a minefield and not tell them where the mines are. And I feel that our industry, behavioral health, and all the resources, which I'm not going to name all of them, they put people out in minefields, and do not give them a map. And that is horrible. We try to do that immediately and give them that so that they don't have those disappointments. They just understand it, they can accept it, they can advocate, and then that's where that advocacy comes in for more. So we do that immediately when people call us and they're like, "Hey, I'm a reentry and I have Cal Optima, I have Medi-Cal." We know what they can do, and if they don't, guess what we do? We immediately put them and train them to be able to call the ombudsman. If we have to do it ourselves with them, we go right to the next level. So advocating is really teaching someone how to take care of themselves and also help others. And what Kimberly said is 100% spot on. They have to be able to pass it on.
Thank you both so much for everything that you shared today. The success stories, the challenges, all of it. I feel like it's been such an uplifting conversation. And yeah, the love you have for this work and for your community is really evident. And it's great getting to hear that from you.
We love it, and it's a pleasure. I didn't really train to be here. This is who we are, and I think our genuineness, I'm sure, comes through the screen. We're real people with lived experience. We're flawed, but we're not damaged to the point where we cannot help others and help ourselves. And I think that is really crucial to the work that we do. And every day, that's how we wake up. And I'm sure Kimberly can close it out by saying something beautiful.
There is a saying about how if it's your calling, it's not work. And I absolutely feel that way with this work. There would be a void if I didn't have it. An absolute void. I am called to do this and I know it to my core. And I know there are people out there who are just waiting to jump into the game. And I encourage them. It is a journey, but it is so worth it.
Well, you know what? You just reminded me, and I didn't say it, but for me, I think it saved my life.
Hmm. Oh, me too. Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah,
Beautiful way to wrap up our conversation here. And yeah, looking forward to all those updates that you shared with what's coming up for your
definitely.
agency.
We'll be reaching out because we definitely want that collaboration and need it. And I know that you guys are amazing and have done such amazing work. And we definitely want to be part of that.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you to our listeners for being part of this conversation today. I want to share some updates on our end as well. Coming up, we have a quarterly policy update webinar that'll be on July 23rd. That's an opportunity to hear about current legislation and what's going on at the state level. We also have a quarterly training webinar on August 18th. And then we're really excited for our regional events, which are beginning soon. We'll be traveling throughout the state. So there will be an event somewhere near you. And we'll post information about that here in the episode description. We also want to encourage you to continue to follow this podcast, share with others, share with other peers, clients, and consumers, anyone that wants to be involved in this kind of advocacy work. And we look forward to connecting with you for our next episodes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.